Hello, everybody. Welcome to November 1st.
Yeah, it is November. Man, did that ever go quick?
What, the previous 10 months?
Yeah, it seemed like 4th of July yesterday.
Yeah.
Hey, hi team. How are you?
Good.
Good. How are you?
Good. Excellent. Friday. Perfect.
Yeah, it is
Yes.
Friday. It's awesome.
Hmm.
Oh,
Start of a new week.
New week.
I'm
New
looking
money.
forward. I'm
New
looking forward
money. New
yeah.
money.
Well, next week will be a determining factor in a lot of things. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're right.
Nothing. How about just nothing happens?
No, I don't know. I
I
hope
go,
nothing happens.
I do too. I
I think
hope it's just a civil, accept what it is and move on.
Absolutely.
Can't
Don't
wait.
hold your breath on that one.
Don't
What's
think
that?
Don't hold your
wait
breath on
till
that,
it's
buddy.
over.
Yeah, I'll be blue by then. Yeah. Oh. So have you all had a good week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Well, shall we get rolling?
Let's get rolling.
Rolling. Keep those doggies rolling. Well, the jobs report came out today. So I don't know what to believe anymore, but I know I don't believe much anymore because it's non-farm payroll. And, the U.S. economy only added 12,000 jobs in October. It was the lowest job growth since December of 2020. Okay. And of course, previous months were revised sharply lower again. So in August, we had 159,000 jobs, and that was revised down by 81,000 jobs to 78,000. September was revised down by 31,000, so it went from 254,000 to 223,000. So with these revisions, employment in August, September combined is $112,000 lower than previously reported. This means that even after September revisions, when 818,000 jobs were removed, 7 of the past 9 months were revised lower again. So again, we talk about the headline number and what it means. And so you see the market screaming up today because of a bad jobs number, okay, that maybe next month will be revised down to a negative number. I don't know. I mean, we're getting so close. Maybe it'll be negative. But I mean, well, here it is right here. I mean, we're right there.
What do you mean, to catch up on their lies?
Yeah, I mean it's going down all the time, and by that time the election will be over. So open the floodgates and let's see what the real numbers are. And but even with that, the unemployment rate stayed at 4.1%, and that was unchanged from last month. Okay, that was interesting. It says the number of unemployed people was little changed at 7 million. Okay, so you think about that and you're like, okay, where did the jobs come from? Okay, so healthcare again added 52,000 jobs, and then government added over 40,000 jobs. Okay, so those were the main gains. Okay, again, government jobs. Within professional and business services, employment and temporary health services declined by 50,000. Manufacturing increased by 46,000, and construction remained about the same. So it's happy news in the market, I guess, because that means that the Fed has an easier route to say we're going to lower by another quarter point coming up because we're seeing, the job picture back. This is the same thing that happened right before they lowered by 50 basis points, and then everything went the other way. And then they're like, oh, we've lowered too much. We shouldn't have lowered at all. And so they make decisions based on this information, but then they come back and revise it totally different. And who knows what decision they would have made if it was the accurate information at first. And I've run businesses before, and I've run them now. And I know a lot of you guys do, and I know Bob does. But if I had reports sent to me, again, on warranty costs, production numbers, revenue, accounts payable, accounts billable, then receivable, that came in, and every month that my accountant came in and said, oh, I revised these, they're all different. I couldn't run my business. Okay. I just couldn't. So looking at some of the spin today, I see the financial medias, they're blaming the number on the hurricanes, but the BLS, when you go into the report, said it's likely that the payroll employment estimates in some industries were affected by the hurricanes. However, it's not possible to quantify the net effect on the over the month changes in national employment hours or earnings estimates because the establishment survey is not designed to isolate effects from extreme weather events. There was no discernible effect on the national unemployment rate from the household survey. Okay, and then they went on to say the initial establishment survey collection rate for October was well below average. However, collection rates were similar in storm-affected areas and unaffected areas, so they were the same. A larger influence on the October collection rate for establishment data was the timing and length of the collection period. This period, which can range from 10 to 16 days, only lasted 10 days in October and was completed several days before the end of the month. Okay, so again, if it was just a hurricane, why are all the revisions for the last 2 months go down? There were no hurricanes 2 months ago. So
Well, I mean, hurricanes are limited to certain areas.
That's true.
8 other states.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't affect us up here.
Exactly.
So I agree. So more jobs. Okay, the JOLTS report came out. That's the job openings. Okay. So the number of job openings fell by 418,000 jobs in September from a downward revised 7.861 million in August. So they revised that down. Below the market expectation of 7.99 million was the lowest level since January of 2021, indicating the labor market is cooling. Okay, well, so if you remember in August, the number of job openings unexpectedly soared from an upward revised 7.7 million to 8.04 million, which was not only a 3 sigma beat to expectations, but was also above the highest Wall Street forecast. And for those that keep track, the downward revisions at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we've seen every strong data point is quietly revised down to flat or negative in subsequent months. So, again, more revisions to the downside. So as the BLS admits itself, while the response rate to most of its various labor and other surveys has collapsed in recent years, nothing is as bad as the JOLTS report, where the actual response rate remains near a record low of 33%. It used to be up in the 60s to 70%, so now they're only getting 33% response rate. When you look at the jobs quits, the quits came out, and the number of job quits, and what this means is people who quit on their own. Okay, and it's an indication of how people feel about security in their jobs. If there's a high quit rate, people think they can go get another job somewhere. If it's a low quit rate, people are more concerned about, I hate my boss, I hate my job, but I don't want to lose my job because I can't find another one. So the number of quits fell to 3.07 million in September, the lowest level since August of 2020. We keep going back to that 2020 year, from an upward revised 3.178 million in the previous month. So they revised that up. The quits rate is a metric that measures voluntary job leavers as a proportion of total unemployment, decreased 1.9% from the upward revised 2% in the previous month. So you're seeing people quit less, at least in the month of October. And then something really interesting that throws another cog in this is ADP came out with their job report. And so they said private businesses in the US added 233,000 workers to their payrolls in October, the most since July 2023, following an upward revised 159,000 rise in September, and a much higher than forecast 115,000. The service producing sector added 211,000 jobs led by education, health services, trade, transportation, utilities, leisure, hospitality, professional business services, and information. Meanwhile, the goods producing sector added 22,000 jobs, of which 37,000 were in construction and 4,000 in natural resources and mining, while manufacturing shed 19,000 jobs. So one certainty between these two reports is manufacturing is losing jobs, and they both agree on that. So I leave it up to you, to believe what you want to believe and dissect these reports. And you can go in there, and it's really boring to look at them. I do it all the time. And, it's to the point that people aren't even going to care about these anymore because they don't believe in them anymore. That's kind of where I'm at. If you revise them all the time, what good is the headline number to me? So anyway, that's the jobs report. Bob, you have any comment on the jobs report or what you see or how you're doing?
Yeah, they're lies, that's all.
Okay.
That's my position. I mean, it's like listen, we're not hiring. And nor other companies are hiring. Everybody is laying people off, or they're getting rid of what they consider um employees that are not underperforming. And I mean, even Zuckerberg is getting rid of people.
Mhm.
It's just an opportunity right now to clean house. One, two, there's not enough revenue in the businesses other than the big guys that are just a big funnel to everything. Small businesses are dying. Take a look, go into your town and take a look at the empty stores. That's an indication to how great the economy is doing. It's horrible. I mean, in Florida, I'm in Florida now, and you go through the strip malls and you see out of 10 stores, there's 2 that are empty now, or 3. So I don't believe any of these reports. All these reports today was like most shocking to me. That number was like crazy. And the ISM is still not in great shape.
Right.
Manufacturing jobs are down 50,000. Those are all indications of there's no demand, right? No one's ordering anything, other than an iPhone. Uh, I I think we need a lot of help.
Well, I mentioned last week, I don't know if you were on, Bob, but a good friend of mine
No, I
owns a big,
wasn't last week.
he
Sorry.
owns a big metal fabrication company here locally, 7 buildings, over 250 people. Basically consumer goods. He makes a lot of mower decks and mower parts for riding mowers. And he makes a lot of smokers and grills. Okay. And he told me last week, I hadn't seen him in a long time. I said, well, how's things going? He says, oh, it's horrible. He said, I've got my grill company owes me 7 figures and they didn't tell us to stop making things and they're in trouble. Okay. They're looking for more bank credit. He says, and then on the other side, on the landscaping mower stuff, he says that's slowed down tremendously because people aren't buying them. He says, so now, I've got to lay people off or try to keep them busy. He says, but my partner and I, we each took 3 months. Now we're taking 3 months of no pay. That's how bad it went, for
I'm
him.
I'm 6 months,
Really.
no pay.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a sacrifice. When I own businesses, I was
That's
always the first one to write a check and the last one to get a check. So I know what you're talking about.
so yeah, and everybody believes that the owner is always collecting, a paycheck, and that's not true. I've actually said it last time in the meeting, hey, I haven't been paid for 6+ months now, and I'm just living off my own money. And
Hmm.
there's no reaction. It's just like, oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Sucks to
don't,
be you. Sucks to
I
be
don't,
you, right?
There's no reaction. There's nothing. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
well, the reaction is internally is, well, you must not be a good business owner. Because people who don't ever own businesses, who have never tried to make a payroll, don't understand.
And it. Yeah. I know. I agree with you.
So
I always say about these Congress people and all of them, none of them own jobs. Majority of them. There's a couple that do. None of them own a job. They never signed the front of the check. They signed the back of the check, as I would
Right.
say, right? And
Right.
they don't get what it is to make payroll every 2 weeks or every week, depending on your cycle. And to pay people and then pay your vendors, okay? And pay the electric and all the other things, the mortgage.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry, Trent.
when I did startups and we had businesses, I remember because we had some government stuff that didn't come in they only paid when they wanted to pay, so you never knew what was coming in. So I
Mhm.
had it on the books coming in, but I didn't have it in my account. When payroll came up, I had to transfer money from my own checking account into the business to make payroll and then pay myself back.
I've done that. I've done
Yeah,
it. You
yeah,
know, sometimes you're expecting cash to come in. Companies are all starving. They're paying later. You
yeah,
know, they're beyond 60 days, like your friend's telling you.
yeah.
It used to be 30 to 45, you would get your money. Now it's gone into the 60 range, and I'm shutting accounts down. I'm saying no, unless you pay me, I'm not processing this PO.
Well, and you shouldn't, because what you're doing is you're being the bank, an interest-free loan to
Right,
everybody. Yeah,
exactly. So
yeah,
I put my foot down, and of course I get the call from my son. They're sending the money, da da da. I don't want to let this order go. We could use this order. Yeah, yeah, I could use the money too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you.
And then I remind him, I says, I haven't been paid in 6 months.
Yeah,
He goes,
I
oh,
bet he's been paid though.
He's paid. Yeah,
Yeah,
all of them are paid. I have
yeah,
not cut one person's pay other than my own.
you, yeah. Well, let's talk about something a little happier. And at least last week for me, because I'm an investor, Bitcoin went up and went over 70,000 and came up to almost the record. It's down to around 70 now. So, but it was up
69.
seven. Yeah, it was up 72 or whatever. Spot Bitcoin exchange traded funds listed on the US recorded over 870 million in net inflows on Tuesday. It's the third highest figure since the products first went live in January. BlackRock's IBIT logged over 629 million, followed by Fidelity's FBTC at 133 million, BITB 52 million, Grayscale Mini 29 million. So again, people, I think this probably, Paul and I had a little discussion that it's probably election related, that that they're anticipating that Donald Trump probably would win the election, and he would be more favorable to the crypto world than Kamala Harris would be. So, we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting when the election results are finally done to see where the mice run, or that where they're going to run over to what sector we're going to find, they're totally opposite. Where's the money going to flow? I thought the interesting thing was that, in a document filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, Microsoft revealed it's considering a proposal to invest in Bitcoin. Microsoft precisely disclosed that the assessment of investing in Bitcoin is currently proposed and we voted on during the shareholder meeting on December 10th. However, the firm stated in the filing the board recommends a vote against it. So you're starting to see more companies look at Bitcoin or crypto as like MicroStrategy has done, and put all their treasury into Bitcoin. And MicroStrategy even leverages this out, by offering convertible notes out there for under 1%. They buy Bitcoin with it, using the value of the Bitcoin to pay back the notes. And it's worked out really well for MicroStrategy. And you can go look at a chart of MicroStrategy, and it's been doing very well. And so,
do you? I was
go
thinking
ahead.
about that when I saw that article on Microsoft, and I thought, here's a company who's spending, I think I'll get this number wrong, but I think $81 billion dollars. Is it 81 billion on AI, on data centers, GPUs? Maybe it's a combination of the three companies. And they are going into a winter season economically. So you're starting to see the slowing of their revenue growth and earnings. Are they looking at this going, okay, we need to hedge this out? So Bitcoin is the most, we've seen how MicroStrategy has done it. We've seen a handful of small companies do it. Is this a way to offset this cost that we're going to be fronting for the next probably 3-4 years, and captures and offset it with you buying Bitcoin? Would that be a corporate strategy conversation?
Could be. I think that they're looking for, because the devaluation of the dollar and the loss of purchasing power. I mean, we've talked about it. Most of these guys will put their either excess cash, they'll either give it back to the shareholders, they'll buy back stock, or they put it in treasury bills like Warren Buffett does. Well, if you're only making 4.5% now, like we are, 4.6%, you know, are you really keeping up with inflation? Are you really keeping up with the devalued dollar? So you really probably have to make more in the line of 12%. And if you go watch some of the videos by Michael Saylor and how he's got it in his head on how much he has to make, you know, just to stay ahead, he's like, that's why he went into Bitcoin, because if you go back, you know, to 2009 when Bitcoin came up and average out the increase, it's like 42% a year, you know, Bitcoin goes up. He says, and that makes sense to me as opposed to putting everything into a, you know, a treasury where I'm losing money every year. And
Yeah.
maybe that's what they're talking about there. I don't know, you know, but
Yeah.
they're not the only company. There's a bunch of companies, smaller ones, that have started this. I think Square does it too. Square takes a part of their profits and they buy Bitcoin with it for their treasury. So it's interesting.
I would think as, you know, a company like Microsoft, who is spending a ton of money on AI and all related things with AI, knowing the payout on it is going to be probably 5 years down the road at the soonest, they've got to be saying, okay, how many more pieces of cloud software can we sell? How many more of this in an economy that's slowing? Now let's start thinking a different way. You know, let's hedge this out. And I don't know, it makes sense. I mean, I would think that that's what you would do.
Yeah, I think Tesla still owns Bitcoin, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe so.
So yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's something, you know, and part of what I went over last week on my income strategy using, you know, covered call ETFs was, you know, two of the four were, you know, MicroStrategy and Coinbase. So you don't use those kind of products unless you believe that the underlying asset, which is Coinbase and MicroStrategy, NVIDIA and Tesla, is going to go up over time, because if they go down, you're not going to do very well. So got to have that belief. So we'll go on a little bit. We'll stick with manufacturing, and really one of the areas that I've just been noticing just a lot of press on is auto manufacturing. You know, and you look at Mercedes-Benz last Friday, they said third quarter earnings in the core car division plunged by 64%. Okay. Massively missing analyst estimates as Chinese consumers continue to cut back on luxury goods in a weakening economy. Then you look at Volkswagen. Volkswagen in Europe, it sounds like a huge mess. They plan to shut at least 3 factories in Germany, lay off tens of thousands of staff, and shrink its remaining plants in Europe's biggest economy as it plots a deeper than expected overhaul. The car makers' Works Council head said on Monday. Volkswagen CEO said, "We are not earning enough money with our cars currently. At the same time, our costs for energy, materials, and personnel have continued to rise. This calculation cannot work under the current circumstances." So basically, he's talking about inflation, okay? And he's talking about not only inflation, but there's no consumers out there buying his cars. And I think Bob has talked about it with the BMWs, you know, that the lots are full, okay? And no one's buying. And so they can't continue to make stuff if no one's buying. And that's what we're seeing. You know, you look at Stellantis. Stellantis doesn't look very good. Look at what Ford did. I mean, it's just not looking very good in the auto industry. And you think about the auto industry, you think about the aerospace industry, at least in this country and worldwide. And there's a lot of little companies and other companies that depend on those for their incomes, just like we see, you know, in aerospace. And I'll talk about that in a second. We had some big earnings this week, Microsoft. So following Microsoft's quarterly earnings report on Wednesday, Amy Hood, as CFO, says she expects the company to take a 1.5 billion hit to income in the current period, mainly because of an expected loss from OpenAI. Microsoft has invested close to 14 billion in OpenAI, whose chat GTP assistant has gone viral and spiraled a whole new industry called generative artificial intelligence. This trend has generated billions of dollars in new revenue for Microsoft. But OpenAI is losing bundles of cash. The company expects 5 billion in losses this year before stock-based compensation on 4 billion in revenue, information reported earlier this month. The earnings call came after Microsoft reported an earnings and revenue beat for the fiscal first quarter. However, the stock slid and extended trading after the company forecast called for slower than expected growth. Okay, so again, it's not what you do for me today, it's what you do for me tomorrow. And so the earnings are fine, but it's what they say, you know, in the guidance that really the markets look at. Meta, okay, Meta reported a weaker than expected user numbers and warned of significant acceleration in its infrastructure expenses in 2025 in its third quarter earnings report on Wednesday. Sales in the third quarter jumped 19% years over year, while the net income grew 35% to 15.7 billion from 11.6 billion a year earlier. That represents Meta's lowest year-over-year growth for net income since the second quarter of 2023. Okay, and Trent's talked about this with NVIDIA. You know, you look at the revenue and you look at earnings, and it's triple digit, but it continues to go down quarter to quarter. You know, and so that's what we're starting to see. And as revenue comes down, you're seeing expenditures go up, which takes out the margins. Okay. The company reported 3.29 billion daily active people for the third quarter. That was up 5% year over year, but came in below analyst expectations of 3.31 billion. Meta also raised capital expenditures guidance for 2024 fiscal year to between 38 billion and 40 billion. That's up from 37 billion to 40 billion previously. Additionally, the company said it expects capital expenditures to continue to grow significantly in 2025 due to an acceleration in infrastructure expenses. So again, they're sacrificing today's dollar for the hopes of the future. And that's what Trent was just talking about, you know, with Microsoft and Bitcoin, you know, that, you know, pay me today, I'll pay you today for, you know, or I'll gladly pay you tomorrow for the hamburger you give me today, you know, the old wimpy from Popeye.
Right.
So we look at Apple. Apple came out, they dropped 1.7% despite beating quarterly sales forecast, as investors worried about the decline in China sales. Apple's iPhone sales in China slipped 0.3%, while rival Huawei, whatever, posted a 42% surge in the third quarter of 2024. As competition intensifies in the world's largest smartphone market, the U.S. tech giant has since responded with multiple discount campaigns to boost sales. Google, okay, Alphabet shares, they went up in pre-market activity the other day after the company reported overnight year-over-year jump in Q3 earnings and revenue. The company reported Q3 earnings late Tuesday of $2.12 per diluted share, up from $1.55 earlier. So good for Google. AMD, okay, AMD, among companies that reported Tuesday, shows that semiconductor AMD dipped after its forecast for fourth quarter revenue and AI chip sales disappointed investors. Then, of course, we've got Super Microcomputer. I hope you guys don't have that. It was down to lead the losers in the NASDAQ 100, extends a negative 40% rout after accounting firm Ernst & Young resigned as SMC's auditor amid the U.S. Justice Department probe of the company's accounting practices. It's never a good thing when your big three auditor quits you, okay? That means they don't have faith in what you're telling you, and they don't want to be involved with you at all. And that's what we're seeing at Supermicro. So I've seen some chatter about, you know, is it time to buy? And for me, that would be a no. Okay, and that's not financial advice, but I don't see it. Go ahead, Trent.
So I was thinking about that. It's down around what, $28, $29. It was up, what, in the 150 range or so at its peak. They provide a computer that a lot of these big data centers are buying. Is that correct?
I don't know anything about this company.
Okay.
I assume
So-
that's it. I don't know anything about it.
So is this a company that at some point will recover because they offer a product that is, I guess, unless Dell challenges it, is a company that will eventually recover because of the product they manufacture? I mean, is that
I don't know, but I do know that when I was working for big companies like Compaq and others, that the CEO had to sign, okay, everything goes into the SEC that says that these are factual and I agree and there's no,
right?
and that's a crime if you sign it and they find out that you were not doing it. So
Sarbanes-Oxley or something like that?
whatever it is, but yeah, it could be. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could be talking maybe some criminal charges here, and who knows? Who knows?
Right.
And if they're cooking the books, and I'm not saying they are, but something's wrong there that the accounting agencies has resigned from there. something in their numbers isn't right. So are they making
That's a
money? Are they not
drastic
making
move.
money? What's that?
That's a drastic move.
Yeah, that is a huge
Especially-
move.
What do you mean, the
Huh?
stock
Yeah.
price?
No,
What's-
no,
what's-
no, and that the auditors like Ernst and Young would quit a company.
Yeah, that's a drastic move.
Yep.
So,
That means
so
it- That means they want nothing to do with it because
That's
they've
right.
looked at
That
the
means
books.
get up and run.
Yeah,
So Kerry's saying it's a buying opportunity now. He's going in, he's buying. So it's kind of like mixed
Well,
messages here, right? Yeah.
no, it's not a mixed message at
I
all.
wouldn't buy it.
I wouldn't buy it, but see, I wouldn't buy some of the stuff you buy, Paul, but that's you and your risk tolerance, okay? That doesn't mean you're wrong or I'm wrong, okay? It just means I have a different risk tolerance and a different set of guidelines than Kerry. Kerry
can
looks
make
at different things, you know?
You can make your money in other things, you know, why that's trying to get out of a hole for the next year.
Yeah,
Right. No,
It's gonna stay
I was
down there
curious
for a
just
while.
because if you have a product that is in demand and is a one of a kind product,
It's not one of a
is it
kind.
something that down the road that could go up? Is it maybe somebody comes in and buys SMCI up and says, "We'll buy your patents, your technology, a whole bit. You go deal with your lies." I mean, I don't know. It's just something I was like, if I need, a certain product and nobody else can compete in that product, well, is there an opportunity for like down the road recovery? I don't
That's what Kerry's, I mean, if anybody's seen his video, he's basically saying that someone's may come up and scoop him because,
Yeah.
because they
Well,
have a
and
good
then-
mark. Because they
Yeah,
have
and
a,
then it comes
Go ahead.
then it comes to question of does your ownership of that stock transfer over to the other, or do they file bankruptcy and you're just screwed out of it?
well, and I'm not an attorney, but I'm not sure that they will be able to sell assets when they're in a legal fight, okay?
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know.
It'd be like being in a divorce and trying to sell all your stuff while you're still, divorcing
Yeah.
each other. You can't do it. Everything gets
happens all the
frozen.
time.
Like everything gets frozen. I mean, you're not supposed to do anything. So I would
Yeah.
assume that they could not sell their assets to anybody pending that there may be some creditors out there that need to be paid. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
not, I'm not a lawyer, but I've been involved in those kind of meetings.
I do think it's something that you don't get your toe, put your foot in the water right now, because this could turn into something even bigger, which I then thought was, well, aren't they really tight with NVIDIA? And I'm like, I don't know. So I don't know. I think that's the problem with all of this is you can't, going back to the jobs numbers and all these other things, a bunch of lies. Well, does that not translate over to corporate as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's where you got to be really cautious of something like that.
There's plenty of companies that are cooking their books. These guys just got caught with their pants down.
Yeah. So, yeah, and their number one auditor said no.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
Well,
confirmation.
that's a first. That's a
That's
first.
like, yeah. Anyhow,
So the question
And-
to me is, what's the worst thing that could happen to this company? I mean, I'm not
Well,
going here and
bankrupt.
buying it.
Bankrupt.
you lose, you goes bankrupt.
Yeah, but so
People
the
go to
likely,
jail.
It goes to
I see
zero.
people go to jail, but if I had to throw my thoughts is, I don't think it's going to go bankrupt. I don't think it's going to go out of business.
You don't know
I
the
mean,
rule.
certainly
You
it
don't.
could. Yeah.
What you know is what they have been reporting. Now you
Mm.
know is that their auditors won't even step in the
Right.
same room, which then gives you the idea of, well, have I been lied to? So is what they have been telling me a bunch of crap? And if so, then it goes to zero. So the risk is there's more downside risk ahead versus upside. So what you do is you wait. And you wait for the truth.
Me personally, I'm staying as far away from this company as possible. Like Bob said, there's plenty others that actually are better than this.
You
And
can make money.
when I was in the business, okay, the financial business, that was back when Enron went down. And I remember people calling in, even my brokers would come up to me and say, hey, do you think Enron's a buy now? Because look at it, it used to be, $75 and now it's at 20. I'm like, no, are you kidding me? It's like it's a plane going down. Then they come back, hey, it's at $10 now. Should I buy? Like, all you're doing is gambling your money. And then it went out of business. It went under $1 and went out of business and everyone lost their money. And I'm like,
Enron's
what?
a financial company though, right? Enron
No,
was
Enron
more,
was an energy company.
Energy
was it
company.
energy? So
Yeah.
that's what they generated. Like, what's a comparable company to Enron? Like, so I know, I don't know what they did. Like, is it like, Exxon or Seg or N?
Well, they
like,
did a
what's it?
lot more. They did a lot more trading in um, derivatives of the energy business.
Ah, so it's a
That's what they.
finance really, right? It's really they're trading, they don't produce energy or, they're not
But
manufacturing company.
but what difference does that make? What difference does that make? It went down. I mean, that's my comparison. Is SMCI could do the same thing.
Yeah, which it is. It's going down.
Yeah, I know. They're
So-
shipping product. They have a manufacturing company. I mean, I think that's what I'm trying to dissimilar. It's a technology company, and I don't know that their business is going to go away. I'm just asking questions because I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
there are people on the streets that are looking at this as, geez, it's not going to go away, this company. So,
Well,
but
you know, they
then
they
there's
used to say that about Kodak as well,
Yeah.
and
Now that's a different.
Tupperware,
That's a
and
different gig though.
you know,
You're bringing up different gigs. Kodak went away because their business model went away. This is in a hot sector. Those are
I don't
different
think it's
gigs.
hot. I think it's the same as what I did at Compaq. They just build higher end computers. So I think Dell could come in there and sweep up the business. No, because I do
they
know
probably
Dell.
are.
I've been to Dell
Yeah.
lots. When I was working in the business, I met Michael Dell. Okay, when they were one of our competitors. They're a smart company, and they're on this. They're on this. I mean, all SMCI does is assemble computers. Any of us could go down to Florida with Bob's Extra Space and assemble computers. We just have to buy the parts.
No, it's a little more complex than that. They have cooling
Well,
systems.
it's
It
actually
really
not.
They have it's no.
It's actually not. I've been in the computer business. Okay, it's just a higher end computer. And it's a manufacturing process. SMCI doesn't produce a thing. They take parts and put them together. Okay, that's nothing that
Which
we couldn't do.
questions why they are worth so much money,
I got caught up in the hype.
you know? It doesn't make much sense to me. I never invested in them,
I
not
haven't
one
either.
penny.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about we're talking about if it's
Oh, I
what's going.
understand we're not
Yeah.
talking about. I'm saying that I question their business model. And obviously, by questioning their business model and not putting a penny of my money in it, okay, now confirms that my thoughts were right. That's all I'm saying.
I know what.
I put money in
All
it and I made money, so doesn't
I'm
mean
not saying,
doesn't
I'm
mean
not
anything
saying,
about the forward.
right, but I'm not saying that that was wrong or anything. That's just my investing
Yeah,
strategy.
I think that's fine, Paul. You have a higher risk tolerance than I do. I'm not gonna put my capital at risk for a company I know that's lying to their auditors, and their auditors are saying we're done. It's like Netlist. I wouldn't invest in Netlist either. I'd swing trade Netlist, but the chances of them winning their lawsuit is just speculation against Google or any of these companies. And so I choose not to invest in them, but yeah, I can swing trade them if I want. But you just got to know that at any moment, the trap door can open and that price is going to could go down to zero.
well, it's down 8.93% today.
Yeah,
So
that's a
it's
lot.
getting closer.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, a good discussion. No, I appreciate everyone's comments on that because it's all valid. It goes back to your individual risk tolerance and what your financial trading plan or investment plan is. And for me, it doesn't include. This is an easy one for me to stay away from because I don't have to worry about it. I'd rather go with something.
We're touching upon more of the narrative and the fundamentals of the company and what's happening legally from it. It really doesn't have to do with the charts.
Well,
We know
here's
it's
the other
banking.
element. Here's
Yeah.
the
Well, I
other
mean,
thing about this, and that is on April 3rd of 2023, the stock price was closed at $10.54. it got as high as on March 1st, 2024 of 101. Okay, so that just right there, that very short term move higher has to be questioned. You know, that's not fundamental growth. That's not sustainable. So I guess I look at it and I go, something, you know, something propels that. If it's the narrative of AI or if it's cooking your books, it's something. But I think what we just saw is in this company, and I think that's something you have to be cautious about, is when you see a exponential jump like that, you have to go, whoa, wait a second. Is it really supported? So
Oh, absolutely. Any parabolic move, you're gonna be questioning all along the way, you know, why is it doing what it's doing? And, you know, it's
no, I don't think most people do though.
what, question their
I have
parabolic
I
moves?
yeah, I
I
have
think,
friends who lost 8-figure because
Yeah,
they didn't question housing.
snap.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that's something that part of risk management is you've got to ask yourself the question, is this sustainable? Is it have good fundamental foundation to warrant such a move? And I think what we're finding out is with SMCI is no. The answer is no. So
I mean, I
Well,
just look at,
they got caught with
what,
their pants down. If they didn't catch them with their pants down, this stock would still be up. I mean, that,
no,
well,
it went.
I
It's
think
been
so.
going down
eventually,
anyways.
eventually
It-
it's a Ponzi scheme if they're messing with their financials, and it's gonna fall apart at some point. You
Oh, no,
know,
I don't doubt that, but I'm saying if that report never came out, you know, if none of this, if they didn't get caught, I'll say, you know, I
Well,
think
it's been
this stock,
declining since
yeah.
March of this year. So it
Okay,
hit its peak in March.
it'd be
At
interesting to know. It'd be interesting to know if you go in and see insider sells if they were selling back then.
that would be,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I would
yeah,
go look at.
yeah.
Yeah, because they knew something was probably up. You know,
which
because
then
the SEC just doesn't go in and, you know, put it in the New York Times or doing something. They'll contact you and say, okay, we have some questions we want to ask you, they, without anyone else knowing, you know.
yeah.
Quite the story.
It is quite the
Hmm.
story. And
There'll probably
just,
be a 60 minutes thing on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So again, you know, what Kerry does, Kerry has his set of what he does. So I'm not offering anything conflicting to Kerry. I just have a different point of view and I look at things differently. I look at the charts like you do, Paul, and knowing that not only the charts are there, but knowing what's going on in the background, it is something that for me, my risk tolerance, I just steer clear of it for me. I'm not
I
gonna
brought,
mess with it.
honestly, I brought it up to bring up the drama. I knew it'd rattle your cage. So that's all I did.
My cage isn't rattled. I'm fine.
You know what I'm saying?
I think
I
if
don't
you
have
want to
a,
I knew
go, you
everybody
go.
would be.
I don't have a
I
cage.
think if you want to go play something like this, you go have your a friend or spouse drop knives from 6 feet from the or from 10 feet up, and you try to catch them. I think that's the result of this one.
Yeah.
So
Well, I don't know.
Anyway,
You know,
you
anyway,
want drama?
we'll,
Just go do
not
that.
financial advice. Not financial
I'm just,
advice.
I'm bringing that
And
other
that
piece up,
wasn't
you know,
health. That wasn't
Kerry's
health
gonna,
advice
yeah, you're
either.
not, that's throwing in more drama, but Kerry's gonna be on later. He's gonna talk about how this is a buying opportunity. And then are we all gonna
Oh,
speak up and say, well, and challenge him?
Yeah, I
You
will.
know, it's
I
just, you
will.
know how,
I do it
so,
all the time.
so I know, you know what I'm saying? It's just a bit of
Yeah.
drama here. That's all.
However, you know,
Yeah.
that's he has a right to his opinion and his
Well,
methods, just like all of
it's
you
a
guys
valid
do.
question, though.
And yeah, we will question each other, which is what I like about this group. You don't have to agree with what we question, and you don't have to abide by anything. But I think it's cool that we bring it up and say, you know, I don't agree with you because of this. And it's his money, whatever he wants to do with it. You know, it doesn't affect me in any way. I just see the world differently. I see it different than Trent and I are not on the same boat all the time. We're closer than Kerry and us are, but you know, you and I, Paul, we're not on the same boat and everything, but we still strive to make money off this market, and we still
Absolutely.
bounce things off of each other. You know, whether we agree with it or not, I'll still bounce things off you. You know, and you do it to me. So that's what it's all about.
Sure.
So, okay, I'll move on. Let's go on to more happy news with Visa. They plan to lay off 1,400 employees and contractors by the end of the year, according to people familiar with the matter, as part of a streamline in its international business. Boeing, okay. So last Wednesday, Boeing voted by 64% against the company's latest contract offer, fertilizing assembly for nearly all the plane makers' commercial jets. Has created a fresh test for suppliers such as Independent Forge, which opened in 1975. Demand for parts has dropped, hitting suppliers after they spent heavily to meet renewed demand for planes in the post-pandemic era. 5 Boeing suppliers interviewed by Reuters this week said continuation of the strike would cause them to furlough workers, freeze investment, and consider halting production. About 60% of the 2.21 million Americans who work in the aerospace industry have jobs directly linked to the supply chain, according to the U.S. industry group, Aerospace Industries Association. Those suppliers' decisions to reduce staffing could create a vicious cycle, as they will put added strain on Boeing's effort to restore and eventually increase 737 MAX output above a regulator imposed cap of 38 after its factories reopen, analysts say. Shares of Boeing did rise today 2.4% after the union of striking workers endorsed an improved contract that includes a 38% pay raise, which members are expected to vote on Monday. So again, we'll have another vote Monday. We'll see if they approve it or they disapprove it. If they disapprove it, it just rolls the economy. These other little companies can only afford, like Bob said, to go so long paying people when they're not making parts and they're not getting revenue. Talk a little bit about the economy. Food banks in key swing states are reporting record level increases in the number of people in need of food. In rural and urban areas, more people are turning to food banks amid high inflation rates and skyrocketing prices at the grocery store, according to NBC News. Despite rising wages and low unemployment rates, many households continue to struggle with escalating costs that have depleted their savings and increased credit card debt, leaving little money left over at the end of the month to put food on the table, food bank directors say. So we're seeing the same story that we talk about every week about people are putting everything on the credit card, stretching their credit to the limit. And we're starting to see delinquencies. We're starting to see people that can't afford the food. And then you think about, we hear about the CPI and the PPI and all that, and it's going down. Well, the rate of increase has gone down, but the amount of inflation is still going up. And that's what people are seeing, people who can't afford the increase of 20 to 30% over a period of time. We look at housing prices. The S&P Case-Shiller 20-City Home Price Index in the U.S. increased 5.2% year on year in August 2024, the least in 10 months, compared to a 5.9% rise in July, and a forecast of 5.1%. So you're seeing home prices, starting to slow down a little bit. U.S. pending home sales in the United States went up by 7.4% from the previous month in September, accelerating sharply from the 6/10 increase in August, and well above the expectation of a 1.1%, to mark its largest increase since January. Contract signings rose across all regions of the country as buyers took advantage of the combination of lower mortgage rates, again, this is August, in late summer and more inventory choices. And again, these are contract signings. This doesn't mean that they're actually going to buy them, okay, because we've seen in the past that these contracts can be canceled, and we've seen those reports also. So we'll see, but it's good news, better news for homes. Durable goods, preliminary data for October shows that headline U.S. durable goods order fell 0.8% month over month, leaving orders down 2.9% year over year. Orders placed with U.S. factories for business equipment declined in preliminary October data, and prior month's gain was revised lower, suggesting firms are more guarded about investment. In fact, for the 6th month and the last 7 durable goods orders were revised lower. What else we got?
What about
USDA
mortgages?
What's that?
Mortgages, they're all going up.
Yep, we're getting to that. Yeah. Well, you look at, let's go to mortgages. It's right here. Good setup. So the average interest rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage in the U.S. rose to 6.73% in the week ending October 25th, the highest level in 3 months, compared to 6.52 in the previous weeks. And this, again, people are like, how does this happen? The Fed's lowering rates. Well, the Fed lowers rates on the Fed rate, which is what they lend banks.
Yeah.
This rate, the mortgage rate, is tied to the 10-year. And the 10-year went up today. It initially went down after the jobs report. And now, do you have you know where the 10-year is right now, Trent? Are you looking at it?
That's because of the debt of the government.
Exactly. So the bond market's saying, look, the debt of the government is way too high, and we're going to punish you for that. and we're gonna keep rates high on the bond market, and that's the 10, the 20, and the 30s is where you're gonna see.
4.35.
4.35. So I saw it when the
It
jobs
went up.
report came out. It went down and then it started going back up. And Bob, I believe you're exactly right. It's because our debt keeps going up,
It's 1.42% up today. The yield
which is huge.
Yeah.
For
in the
for a-
bond world. I
for a
mean,
bond
the
market,
candlestick is insane.
yeah.
Um,
It's
Yeah, I think it's one of those. Yeah, you won't sell any homes anytime soon.
Well, U.S. mortgage applications eased by 0.1% from the previous week. The fifth consecutive period of negative change in applications extended to plunge in mortgage demand during the month. Applications for a loan to refinance a mortgage, which are sensitive to short-term changes in rates, fell by 6% from the previous week. So again, if housing goes, that's going to be a big thing. And I know that I was talking to Trent earlier.
There's
Yeah, go
no
ahead.
housing market. Am I crazy or what? There's no
No.
Say that
housing
again?
market. I mean, Trent, house sales by you,
Nobody's selling anything.
right?
No,
Same
if my neighbor Tina, they took their house off the market, and her real estate agent called her. It's been about a month since she had it off the market. He says, "I just want to let you know, nothing is selling in a 20-mile radius of our house. Nothing.
Rates are not coming down like people think.
but
No, they're
prices
not.
People just don't have any money."
prices are coming down.
Depends what part of the
Yeah.
country.
Okay,
Right.
so there are some sales up in Ponte Vedra, Florida. But it's only the very wealthy or someone buying in really cheap in the 200,000, 250 range.
Yeah.
And those are condos. And a lot of people are dumping condos. I don't know if you guys see the HOA rates, but
Yeah.
they're
Don't even bring that shit up.
$1,000 a month for an HOA rate. I mean, can you imagine? It's
But
crazy.
didn't they pass a law? Didn't they pass a law? They had to go after that condo sunk in Miami.
Yes.
And so all
Yes.
these they have to that all got added to their HOAs.
Yeah, people can't afford that. I mean,
My
they're used to
my
400.
HOAs next year will equal my property taxes.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Tell them why.
because they want to, because this is what happens when you don't get involved.
We want a
And it's
second
my
pool.
fault.
No, they have a swimming pool, but you're close, Paul. You're close.
A heated pool. They want to put a heater in, and they're jacking my quarterly rate. And granted, it's compared to a lot of people around me, I'm going from $450 to $595 a quarter next.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's
Almost
equal to
145
my
bucks.
property taxes.
Is it
For a heated pool. And
is it
they
an
pay
indoor
because
pool?
the return on investment, because a bunch of the houses in my neighborhood are Airbnbs, they think that they're going to get return on investment. And I'm like, go look at the VRBO listed a month ago over there in the corner of that house.
return.
They're renting it for $95 a night. You think
There's
you're going to get your return?
ROI on pools, period.
No. No.
Even the
You
pool,
wanna
just
throw
having
money
the
away?
pool is not an ROI.
No. So I will be running.
All I know is about your part of Florida. There is it gets a little cooler in the winter than it does in Miami. So I wouldn't be sitting in the
Yeah.
pool when it's 50 degrees out.
I mean, it's 40 degrees, and you're going to go get in the pool and have the kids run around and then get out, and they're going to get sick, and you're going to be sick for a week. What's the ROI on that? It's ridiculous.
Called medication.
People don't think.
Wow.
Well, I don't know.
Anyhow.
I don't know.
Back to the mortgages and the house sales. The house sales are zero. And again, I'm astounded at what I see millennials do in the housing market and how they're floating their boat. I question when that boat sinks, because I've never heard of this before, other than in the last 3-4 months, that millennials refinance their homes at least once or twice a year to pull the money out for lifestyle.
You know, I could see that. I saw that while being in Texas this past 3 weeks. I was bringing up a lady for Ginger, young lady in her 30s, dressed to the nines. I mean, just really decked out. Hands me a Visa, declined. Hands me a second Visa, declined. She goes, "This one doesn't have a limit." Hands me American Express Platinum, and it goes through. And I'm going, maybe you should stop at 2.
Mhm.
You know, 2 swipes and you should be out, right? Come
Right.
on. No. And it's they're swiping cards, and they got and it's a multiple
Which
choice.
they're
Which one do you want?
they're carrying balances and they're paying the interest rate on those cards at 30% interest rates on top of that.
Right.
So how can that survive? And by the way, what was the end take of your trip to Texas? Did you come out okay or a big winner?
So the first week we did well. The second week it was dead. That was a combination, I think, of some scheduling things going on in the city of Round Top, which is a political thing. But luckily, Ginger is very blessed in that she has people who are follow her, and she had one of her old wholesale accounts who she hadn't seen in 4 years come, and they recognized each other, and she's like, "Are you coming through Lafayette?" And we were like, "Yeah, we're coming through." She goes, "Pull up whatever you got left, pull up behind my shop, and we'll pull everything out in the parking lot, and I'll go shopping." And
Wow,
because of that event, she did really well.
you did good. But
Yeah, she did well.
without that, that goes to show the connections is the key.
Oh,
And that's the same
and
thing in my business, all about the connection. When you lose that connection, you lose the business.
yeah. So she did well. She if that hadn't happened, we would have broken even, which was way better than our trip to Spokane, Washington in May. But what I saw overall was, I mean, we had people around us who did real well, but they've been going to that show for like 5 to 10 years. And then there are people who sold $100 worth of product, and they were jewelry or something. And it wasn't like it's crap or anything. It's like nice stuff. Nobody was spending money. And it's just, and it told me it was like, this economy is slowing, and what the numbers you're hearing are BS. And I honestly think, depending on where the direction of this election, they're just going to open the trap door on all this, and all the real numbers going to come out, and the truth will come out, and all of a sudden everybody will go, "Holy crap, we are in a recession. We have been for a while." And that's
Yeah,
where
oh,
I think you got
we're
to be
in a
careful.
recession. That's for sure. It's been that way.
Oh yeah, but we haven't acknowledged that.
Well,
I think
acknowledge
as
it
a-
when we come out of it.
The
That's
market
when
is not in a recession, dude. Maybe the economy is, but not the market.
We are talking about the economy, Paul.
Well,
Sorry.
I think there are parts of the economy that are in recession, and I think there are parts of the economy that aren't. If you are a high income individual, and and you're not, the price of bread goes up by 100%, it doesn't bother you. Okay, if you are like a majority of 65% of the Americans in the country who live paycheck to paycheck, that bothers you. Okay, the price of gas bothers you. So I think you'll find, depending on whether you think it's a recession or not, really depends on your economic status right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I agree with Paul. The market is not the economy. The market uh, is a lagging indicator. And once a recession hits, then you're going to see the market respond. It happens all the time. Look at 2008. Look at 1987. Look at 2000. It's always the last
Well,
thing to go.
I think the market is whatever the algorithm decides is how is the algorithm programmed. And if you look at the evolution of trading on a global scale, it has gone from fundamental based to technical based to mathematics. And it's about algorithms. It's about high speed trading, and it's moving markets. And when news comes out, narratives come out, or news some comes out, it triggers things. I mean, look at SMCI. Somebody knew something there, and they've been trading that on the short side for a long time. Most people are like, oh, they just, maybe a buying opportunity. And then all of a sudden the wool gets pulled out, or the floor gets pulled out, and you see it drop like it did. And I think that's something you have to recognize is the markets they are computerized trading casinos, and you got to be willing to understand how it works. And I don't care. I mean, honestly, I don't think half the trades made today anybody knows. They don't know what that company does, or anything about it other than the algorithm, what the mathematics behind it says. And
Well,
I think that's the scary part of this environment that we're in.
That's how I swing trade. I look at my guidelines and I use my guidelines. I don't know what half these things do. But if you look at it, the market's telling me for the last 2 weeks, there's really nothing for me to swing trade according to my guidelines. So that's why you haven't seen too much activity. I had two trades this week, on the watch list. I had, since I started doing, the momentum stocks, the under the 200, and then the watch list, for 2 weeks prior, I was having 36, 37 total stocks on all three of those lists. And Sunday, I only had 17. I knew you're just not seeing the market move anywhere. And I mean, if I can share my screen here, Trent.
Sure.
Paul brought up Visa in the comments, so I'll just bring this up, at all-time highs. But if I go back on a year chart, you can see it comes up, hits resistance, hits resistance, hits resistance, hit resistance. Can it break past here? I don't know. It hasn't in 4 times back a year. Okay, so this is what the chart tells me. And if I'm seeing this line, all those algorithms that you just talked about, Trent, they're seeing this line. They're seeing all these lines, they're seeing all this. This is all in their computer program. And that's why you can't get past these sometimes. It really takes an event to get past them and sustain past them. Let's look at SPY. The S&P 500. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to move it in a little closer. Again, we're coming up, hit. We're just going sideways, right along the intermediate resistance level. And we've been doing that for quite a long time, all the way back pretty much to September 19th. Okay, look at the oscillators. The oscillators aren't good. Okay, we just continue. You see the market goes up 400, one day and down 600 the next day. And if you get caught up in that short-term look, that's what you think. And if you go look at these markets, they're waiting. And maybe that's the election. Maybe we're waiting for the election. But again, here's NASDAQ. Okay, look at the oscillators. Look at the oscillators. Okay, let's go to the diamonds. Let's go to the Dow. Okay, same thing. Look at the oscillators. Look at the oscillators. Okay, the markets are sideways. Okay, and they're telling us we got to wait for something. And is it next Tuesday, depending on who gets elected? I don't know. What do you think, Bob?
My feedback is we're not going to move forward until after the election.
I think you're right.
And should Kamala, I believe that Trump is built into the market. However, if Kamala wins, the market's going to drop. That's my thoughts on what's going to happen. I don't see it going up because everybody that's expecting Trump to win in the market, because he's behind the market to go up. It's, her winning is a loss. So, and I'll tell you, since we're on that subject, I voted in Florida and the turnout is crazy.
It's insane.
Right.
We voted 2 days ago, and the herd of people, it's insane.
Yeah. I mean, I waited.
Which is good. Which is good.
Yeah. No, it's great that it's bringing people out. And, when you call you know, the American people garbage, that drives even more out, right?
I get a mail, I do mail in because I live in the country. So I have them send me the ballot. And I've been doing it forever. And that way I can sit and I can study it and I can fill it out. And this year I took it, instead of mailing it back, I took it into town, and I live out of town, to the election office. And it was 2 weeks ago, Tuesday. And just to take it in myself. And so I took it in, and it was the first day where you could vote in early. And it was 2 weeks ago. And there was a line out the door and into the parking lot on the first day of that. It was something I've never seen before. So there's, depending on which side you're on it, there's enthusiasm somewhere, you know, that I haven't seen for a long time, at least in voting. So it'll be interesting, and how it affects the market is even going to be more interesting. Next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are just going to be very interesting to be a part of just the history of what we're going to see in these markets and what happens.
I think there's a lot of conviction, and I think there's, the America's really, you know, I'll say segregated more than ever to either side. So that furies it and gives motivation. That's why I think record breaking voting.
Can I ask a question off topic?
Yeah.
So Emma, my youngest, is in Georgia for school. She did not get a absentee ballot. Can she go to Florida and vote anywhere in Florida, or does she have to
Yes.
vote within her county?
Yes.
Oh, she can't.
Yeah, she should be able to vote anywhere. She doesn't have to vote within the county. As long as she brings a driver's license with her, they're gonna pull her ballot out.
Okay.
No?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My wife
let her
is
know.
telling me I'm wrong.
That's what wives are for, Bob.
I know. Did you Google it?
I haven't
Go
Googled
to,
it. It
go
was
to
just something that
California,
just came to
everybody
mind.
can vote there. No
Yeah.
ID required.
Did you ever get the 12 ballots for your cats, Mark?
They're on their way. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But the Pennsylvania sending them to me.
Oh, okay.
Nebraska wouldn't do it.
No, gotcha. Anyway, sorry to take us off subject.
No,
It's
what'd you find
her
out?
first time to vote, and she's like, "What do I do?"
I was talking to Trent, I think, about my first time when I voted, when I turned 18. I went down with my parents, and it was at a recreation center. And went in and did the whole vote thing, and you filled it out. And we were talking, we didn't, it was all paper ballots back then. That's how old I am. And you filled it out, and then you took it up, and then the election worker makes sure it was all good, and then you give it back to you, and you put it in that little box, and then you walk out. It's so different. It's so different now, than it was, 50 some years ago. But we were talking about, Trent and I know we're off subject here, but anyway, it's interesting. Back when I first voted, I went home, and by that night we knew who was elected. Okay, and everybody did paper ballots. And now we have all this technology, and all of a sudden we don't know for days sometimes, who gets elected. I just can't get past that. With all this technology, how's that possible? How is that possible?
Peter Thiel brought this up. I was watching something earlier this morning where he talked about how we have all this technology you should know within an instant. He said the reason it's becoming longer and longer stretched out is because it's being manipulated. And I'm like, it's a good point, because you used to hand in your ballot, you had one day to vote.
Yep.
And that's the day you voted, and you handed in your ballot. It was all paper, and it was done. You knew by midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I think that's yeah. So technology really isn't helping us, is it?
That's just one area where it's not, maybe if all the laws were the same, I think some states, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, that you have a certain amount of days after election day to get your ballot in. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Yep.
But in our state, it's got to be there by 8 o'clock, close, to the election office or in your ballot box by 8 o'clock Tuesday night when everything closes. Otherwise, it's not counted in our state. You know, and everybody knows that. Okay, so if you don't get it there, shame on you. You know, we've had 3 weeks to get it down there. So I don't know if other states that you guys live in have that kind of situation where you don't have to have it in by the close on election day anymore.
When does, when does technology take over the court system? It has to be the most antiquated system other than the IRS in our country.
The court system?
Yeah, it's horrible, you know? Stupid ticket. You get a ticket. I mean, the time wasted, you have to get on a call, you have to go through this whole calendar thing. I mean, technology could clean this up really quick and probably collect money and save them a lot of money very quickly. It's crazy, the court system.
Well, maybe, Bob, if you would stop violating the law, you wouldn't have to go down there all the time.
I didn't say me. I do have children.
Oh, okay. All right.
All you had to say.
Oh, yeah, just
But that was a good try, Mark.
So, Jason, what do you got? I see your hands up.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I just did a thumbs up to some of the stuff you guys were saying. I'm just
Oh,
quietly observing.
So are you in California, Jason? Or are you in Indiana? Or I can't remember where you're at.
Both, but currently I'm in California.
Okay. How are things out there?
Well, I'm at the beach, so it's beautiful. But
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. But I will tell you that a lot of the stuff you're saying about the housing market, because I'm looking to try to find some property over here, and it is definitely interesting. You got $1 million houses or nothing, and I can see the difference for sure.
How big is $1 million house in California?
Well, the one down the street that I started looking at was 2,800 square feet without a view. But then once you throw the view in there, you're looking at another $1 million.
Wow.
Even if you got a sliver of the ocean.
wow.
Wow. Yeah, when I lived there in the 80s and a little bit of the 90s, and in Santa Barbara and San Diego. And it was pricey then. I can't even imagine now.
Yeah, it's not a buyer's market. I mean, there's just not a lot out there either. So
what area are you looking at? Are you in LA?
No, I'm in Pismo Beach. So
Okay.
the central beach, right in the middle of LA and San Francisco.
Okay, I know where that's at. Yeah. Yep. Beautiful. Okay. You guys want to look at any charts? You want to talk about anything else? What do you want to do?
Look at charts.
Okay, we can do that. So I got Microsoft pulled up here just because we had earnings.
Hey, Mark, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Hey, I was on the call last week when you were talking about the swings, the 4 swings that you look at for income, the MicroStrategies, NVIDIA. Did you put that somewhere in the whatever program we use to follow each other?
No, I'll do that.
Yeah, could you just, because I was interested and I forgot, I didn't get them all written down. I guess I could have listened to the video, but
yeah. So what you're talking about this is one of them. Okay, this is YieldMax has a whole bunch of products, and I started looking into it a little more. And the guy who runs YieldMax, Jay Pestricelli, I used to work with him back at Ameritrade
small world
20 years ago. So I'm going to see if we can. Maybe we can get him on this call sometime and just explain what all this is. But it's a call option strategy. So there's risk involved. Okay, this is Tesla. Okay, it has one underlying stock that it follows, which is Tesla, and it's a call option strategy. So if you do not believe that Tesla is going to go up over time, you probably don't want to get in this. Okay, because it's not going to work for you as if it were going up. So it's a one stock, and they write synthetics and call options on these, and then they distribute once a month. And so what they've done is they have several, okay, Google, Tesla, NVIDIA, Coinbase, MicroStrategy. They have YMax. They have ones that do just the the Mag 7, okay, the Qs, Apple, Disney, Exxon. You can just go to this website. And so the strategy that I talked about is I just use 4. I use Tesla, I use NVIDIA, I use MicroStrategy, and I use a Coinbase. And so they have a product for each of these. And I just showed how if you bought 100 shares at last week's price, you would be into it about $8,100. Okay. Now, the problem you'll have with that, it's not a problem, but what you need to know on a risk side is you have a principal cost in that. So if you buy 100 shares, and this is today TSLY is at 1184. So you buy, 100 shares at 1184, you're in at, $1,184 or something like that. Okay. So the principle of that, based on how the underlying stock performs, like Tesla, if Tesla goes down, that principle is going to go down. So you could lose all of it, or you could lose half of it. Okay. So instead of $1,100, you now have $600 worth of principal, but it will continue to pay based on the options that it'll pay on your options monthly. Now they might not be as much as they were, but if it comes back up, then the option strategy kicks back in. So what you make up on potential principal loss, you may be able to make up on your income on that. So I just use it because it, like Tesla here, Tesla today paid out, what did they pay out? Just about 60 cents a share. Okay. So if you had 100 shares, you made $60 this month on Tesla. Okay. That's about 4.6% for the month. If that did it every month, and I'm not saying it would, but hypothetically, you would be up 56% annually on that dividend. Now, again, very risky. You need to go look at all the information, the disclaimers. You need to do your own due diligence. But for me, it's nice to have that money come in. So with YieldMax, they have divided up into 4 groups, A, B, C, and D. And Tesla here is in the A group. NVIDIA, I think, is in the B group. Coinbase is in the C group, and MicroStrategy in the D group. So every week, one of these will pay out their dividends. So you have weekly income coming in based on this strategy. So next week, it's NVIDIA will come out, and by Friday, I will have whatever that dividend comes out, and then next week's Coinbase, and it just keeps rolling. So you can reinvest it back in and buy more shares if you want. You can just have the money if you want. And again, they're all over the place as far as what they pay based on the underlying stock and how well they do on the options. So it's a riskier strategy. It's not something I put everything in my entire life into. It's something I use on the side for me to keep busy when I'm not swing trading. So that's a long story short. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking about doing a little more research, and I forgot the website name. And
yeah, it's YieldMax, and you can go look at some videos and just look up Jay Pestricelli. And I'm not even gonna
guess how to spell that.
Yeah, I'm gonna maybe I'll put it in. I'll try to put it in my office. Just kind of my example, and you guys can look at it.
I put the link to the website on the in the chat.
Yeah, good.
As well, something to consider is if you're doing this in a non-qualified account, you're gonna have some level of tax element to this.
You will,
So take that into account. And I posted their 2023 year-end tax reporting information as well. Link below the.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Check games on things or something you're talking about.
Someone has their mic on. It's got a lot of feedback.
Someone has their mic on.
Yeah. Never mind.
Oh, I didn't hear Scott. What were you? Did you hear what Scott?
The issue was saying.
Yeah, he has a mic issue, I think. Can you put it in chat, Scott?
You see, he's at the beach. There's a lot of commotion over there.
Sounds like a radio or TV zone. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I can still hear it. Can you know where that's coming from, Trent? Oh, there
Yeah,
it's
I think
off.
that was, yeah, Scott.
Scott.
I think it's
Okay.
coming from Scott's.
Okay.
He had some
So I'll
feedback.
look at. So this is the TSLY. This is their product. You can use the indicators too and determine, what you want to do. This is MicroStrategy, MSTY. This is their option income. You can see it's right up along the green line of death. Okay, so you will see after distributions, okay, that the price action is going to go down. Okay, so here was distribution day, so it goes down by 60 cents on average or whatever it is. So you're always going to have that. Here's distribution day down. So just keep that in mind, that price action is going to do that, and then pop back up depending on the underlying asset. Coinbase, CONY. This is the other one I use, but again, you can see they're down today. With the price of Bitcoin going down, and these guys just had earnings too. Coinbase did, so they didn't meet expectations. So you see a little dip there. So again, it's a different strategy. It's one I use for income. I'm not worried about principal in this case for me. I just let it sit and churn out some cash until it doesn't, and then I'll move off of it. Let's look at NVIDIA.
Nobody, why we want to look at NVIDIA? Very sad.
It's right back down to the green line of death. So it's not, it popped up, went up to its sell level or resistance level and came back down. It's a little under the 9. Your oscillators are down. Okay. But basically we've been kind of looks like the Qs to me, just kind of sideways, and waiting for something to happen. So when it's earnings is what, 2 weeks, Paul, for NVIDIA?
They're one of the last
21st.
ones to report.
Yeah. So that's coming up.
November 21st.
Okay, so it's a ways away.
They got a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like a
Google.
long time.
Google here's your earnings on Google, and you can see what happened. It went up, green line of death, and kind of came down. Now it's back. Everything kind of reverts back to the mean. It's above the 9. It's hitting on the upper Bollinger, but we still have this. You look at the stochastic is crossed and down. Okay, that's usually not a good indicator for where the MACD is going to go. What was the other? Oh, AMD. Let's look at AMD. They didn't do so well on theirs. Now here's earnings for AMD, and you can see what happened with AMD. And again, on swing trades, I get out before earnings because of this kind of thing. But then again, it can be the opposite. It's 50-50. They could have had good guidance and AMD went up 15%. It just seems like these days on earnings, it's either up 15% or down 15%. It just depends on what you want to do, and what risk you have. If I'm having a gain in mind, I just get out. And if it goes up, it goes up, and let it be. I follow my trading plan. It's my wingman. So
Hey, Mark, I got a few stocks that
All right.
that are treating me well.
okay.
GEV,
Z as in zebra?
General Electric, Vernova.
Oh,
G-
GEV.
Yeah.
Okay. GEV. Yep. Nice.
And we're after. They actually had a miss, but there's
Yeah.
a lot of momentum in this, and I've been in this for well over a few weeks now, and it's treating me good.
Yep.
So I just want to let the team know. Another one is SFM that sprouts.
Just be careful when the green line of resistance come in.
Sure, absolutely, as always.
There's Sprout. It's kind of sitting right here where you see the cell lines. It's kind of come back down and closed. So this is what I don't like here, Paul, is, looking at the stochastic, just be aware.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did some research on its previous earnings, and it tends to continue to trade up when it does well, when it beats earnings, which this handily did. So,
Okay.
So I like that one.
What else you got?
Also, I'm still in FI. I've been there in that for quite a while. They had a beat,
This one I don't like because I don't think it's gonna get past
right?
this line. But, and then look, the MACD's tripped.
Yep.
Yeah, just be careful.
Yeah, but I've been in this for months.
Okay. And then
Another one.
I
Go
know
ahead.
the
What's
one,
that?
there's your T-Mobile, and that again, it's right along its resistance line too. So,
I already punked out of that.
no, you did. Okay.
Yeah, I did buy back in, but very little. But I had a lot of money in there. They punked out because
That's probably a good idea.
yeah,
Yeah, you can always get back in. But yeah, look at this dive here. You're seeing the
Yeah.
MACD dive. So yeah.
Uh,
Okay. What else you got?
Reddit
Yeah, that was a good one.
Reddit was a great. I mean, I love their story. The fact that they made money this year, and I still like their story. So I think we're still in the infancy stage fundamentally. So I mean,
Yep.
chart wise, you may want to, you can get out, but I like
Yeah.
this whole stock fundamentally.
Yeah, I'm just watching it have a little bit of a momentum drop here, but yeah, it came up and look, it hit right where the sell orders were. So, yep.
There's also a tribe member who turned me on to UAL, United Airlines.
Yeah,
What a run.
had a nice run, but I think it's done. But who knows? Charts
That's,
tell me it's getting close to done, but that was a nice run.
Yeah, that's a nice run.
So it would have been awesome. I'm gonna move it over to get in right here when it got above the 200. You would have been at 46.01, and you would have run that all the way up to today at 80.47. That would have been a really nice run.
I've been in Learn for a while, but you're probably not going to like that chart. But LRN, I like their business model. I mean,
Yep.
I've been in this for a little bit, so
Yeah.
just because of their.
It must have
story.
good earnings. Must have good earnings for that really. Look at that gap. Whew.
Yeah, they pumped right up. It was good to be
Yeah.
part of that one.
Yep. Anything else?
Oh yeah, I got a lot of them, but those are some of my like I'm in BWXT, which is okay. That's nuclear components. I'm hanging in there because I like what they do. They sell to submarines and stuff.
You like living on the line. That's what I call you. You live on the line.
Well, my cost basis is crazy.
Yeah.
So I haven't had it for a long time. So I like what they do.
So you're more
yeah.
fundamental is what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, so
There's
far it's
Meta.
been doing good.
Meta.
Oh yeah, Meta's in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, Meta. I haven't looked at Netflix in a while. Netflix. See, just running along the line, just waiting for. Look at that. I mean, the 9 and the intermediate resistance level are just, and look, the price size just squeezed right in there. And it's just they're just waiting for something to pop it up or down,
Right.
on just about everything. And I've never seen so many. I run my screener every weekend. I've never had so many stocks on my list running on that line. It's just incredible. We're either gonna see a big pop of all these, or we're gonna see the opposite. And I don't know what it's gonna be, but like Bob, I think we're gonna be waiting for the election, and that could be the trigger. We'll see. Tuesday is gonna be an interesting Wednesday, 2 days, or Thursday, or however long it takes, but it's gonna be interesting to see the markets be historical, I think, market wise. So that's all I got. Oh, you got your hand up, Jason?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I have a question on that. So from what I've read, that markets typically will, and I know you don't have to give financial advice, but markets typically take a dump right after the election. And I know this year's probably gonna be a little bit different. And I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I hear a lot of things that might happen.
Welcome to the crew.
Yeah. Well, especially if Trump gets elected, they're gonna dump everything in the next 3 weeks before he takes the oath. So I've got a few people that are like, man, get out of the market next week, because who knows because you've got history with the market going down and then all this other crap in the background. Anybody have any thoughts about that? Or
I remember.
I think it's the opposite.
Yeah, I remember in 2016 when election day and Trump won, I was in Pensacola, Florida, on election day. And I was driving up to Memphis. And then I got to Memphis and we went out to dinner, Beale Street and all that. And I went back and I watched the election results I was up till 4 a.m, I think. And we got up and left the next day. But I remember listening to the market open on the way to St. Louis. And the initial, if I remember right, was the market and pre-market just dumped. Trump got it won, he dumped, blah, blah, blah. But by the time market opened and ended that day, it was way up. Am I correct on that, Bob? Do you remember that? Because that's what I remember. And so just be careful, because like Trent said, logarithms can trigger anything, and you just don't know.
Why don't we
So
put up the chart? I mean, I'm looking at a chart here and it looks like it did okay. If you go back to 2020, right? November 2020,
I was thinking about the first time. Let's see here.
you could look at a few elections here and see what it
I'll
does.
just say that in this time around, I believe it's built into the market already. So
I've heard a few people say that too.
will it be sell the news event is the question, or is it going to be the market takes off? But I do know that if Kamala gets in, it's going down.
Yeah.
That's I'm pretty convinced of that.
I
So
think
what-
if you're
Why
looking
do you
at it,
say? Go
I'm
ahead.
looking at it went up.
what, Kamala?
No, I'm looking at in 20.
Trump
It
it
did.
went up.
When Biden was elected, when Biden came into office, it went up. That's what I see. Someone should check I'm looking at a chart
I'm
of
looking-
the S&P.
I mean, the
I'll
month
go
of
back to
November,
another.
Okay,
it
hold on.
opened at 330 and closed at 362 in the month of November of 2020. So if was 16 was the last when Trump was elected,
So you're
16
saying it,
out of 16.
yeah, it opened at for the month of November of 16 at 212 and closed out at 220. So chances are market will go up. I mean, based on those two events. So
I think it's just I don't know. I think
basis a non-issue based on two. Based on us looking at the
Well, I-
historic two, it's a non-issue based on it.
and I think it's a different world than it was 2 elections ago and 1 election ago. I think the dynamics have changed. I think the demographics have changed. It's hard. The world situation where we're in is different than it was 4 years ago and 8 years ago. Geopolitically.
it's an emotional. It's a
Emotional. is
very
different.
emotional time.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting. Again, I'm not gonna make a prediction on it. I just think it's gonna be interesting as a historian of this kind of stuff, just to sit and watch it. I think it's gonna be interesting for me. So,
Yeah.
well, I think that's it. Next week, I'm gonna be traveling, so we're not gonna have a call. I'm gonna head down to Kansas and see Clint Black play. So and then I'm heading over to Kansas City for a day, just for some fun. But so next week we won't have the call, just to let you know.
Cool.
So that's all I got. So I hope everyone has a good weekend and get ready for next week.
Lock and load. I mean, yeah, be safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Can't wait till it's over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
man.
All right, we'll talk to you guys at 3:00 if you're on that call.
Bye, guys.
See you
All
later.
right,
Take
see you
care.
later. Have a
Safe
good
travels.
weekend. Bye.
Bye.